everyone, this is Yvonne from Yvonne Ceramics. Today is day 16 of my ceramic residency in Arita, Japan. I started the morning with a quiet walk to the studio, but when I arrived there was some constructioning happening outside. I could hear the sound of the drills and hammers in the air, so I put on my headphone while I worked. The first piece I worked on today was a porcelain mug. I had already sketched the design in pencil last night. It was a design with waves and floral, both of which are patterns that carry a lot of history in Japanese design. Waves often symbolize resilience and strength, while florals reflect beauty and transience. I've seen these patterns everywhere in Arita, from ceramics in the museums to people's clothing, and they're really grown on me. When I sketch, I like to break the mug into sections. It helps me stay focused because painting on a curved surface can feel overwhelming if I think about it all at once. With the design laid out, I picked up my line brush and dipped it in a dark shade of Gosu blue underglaze. This shade is almost like indigo ink. I carefully trace the outlines, moving slowly around the curves of the mug. On straight line, I can usually pull the brush in one smooth motion, but for the curves, I often need to work in small sections to keep the edges smooth. After the outlines, I switched to a medium shade of blue. I diluted this one with more water, which makes the pigment more fluid and easier to spread. When the brush touches the surface, you can see the blue puddle slightly and then floats as I drag it across. It reminds me of painting with watercolors, but the porcelain absorbs the pigment differently than water. You can't really erase once you have started, so every stroke feels like a commitment. One thing I've noticed here in Arita is how much control the professional painters have with Gosu. The movements are perfectly smooth and you can't even see a single brushstroke. Mine, on the other hand, still shows the direction of my brush. At first I was a bit frustrated by that, but I have learned to appreciate it because it adds a handmade quality to the piece. It's also part of my journey here, and maybe one day I'll reach that level of refinement. Painting this mug made me reflect on how different it feels working with Japanese porcelain compared to what I use in Canada. The texture of the clay is similar, but the tone of the clay is a little bit warmer in color, not a stark white. I think it comes down to the kiln and the local clay composition, and makes me realize how much the land itself influences the art. Every region of Japan has its own ceramic tradition, shaped by the resources around them, and in Arita, Gosu blue on porcelain has become the heart of their identity. Here's the result of the mug after painting. Even though it's not perfect, there is something special about seeing the design come together. Next, I moved on to a bowl I had sketched earlier, and this one was quite fun because it featured two corgi dogs, which was inspired by my two puppies at home. I used a pencil to draw them first, and one nice thing about sketching on bisque is that the pencil acts like a resist. When I paint over it with underglaze, the pigment tends to stay inside the lines, which makes the process a little easier. For the corgis, I used Gosu blue underglaze again. With animal designs, I take extra care around the face, such as the eyes and the nose, because a tiny change in direction can completely shift the expression of the dogs. Sometimes the paint does slip outside the lines, and when that happens, I just wait for it to dry. Then I take a small scraping tool and carefully remove the extra pigment, almost like erasing with a knife. Once the dogs were finished, I wanted to give the bowl a little bit more interest. Using my line brush, I added a few straight lines around the bowl. They don't represent anything specific, but they help guide the eye around the bowl and keep the design more fun. When I look at this piece, I think about how different my work is compared to the traditional patterns I see in Arita. Most of the local designs feature waves, florals, or mythical creatures, while I am painting corgis. But that's what makes this residency so meaningful to me, because it's about blending tradition with my own voice, learning from the local craftsmen while still creating something playful and personal. Here's a photo of the finished bowl after glaze firing, and seeing the shiny surface with the corgis was so rewarding. In the afternoon, I joined the residency intern and head over to the factory for glazing. I brought along a batch of my bisque pieces and glazed them in clear glaze, preparing them for their final firing. The process is quick but precise. I lower the piece into the clear glaze in one smooth motion, then lift it back up before the glaze coat becomes too thick. Then I quickly dip the last spot in clean water to remove any heavy glaze strips, which helps ensure an even, smooth surface after firing. And that was my day 16 here in Arita. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.